It was a hot afternoon. The sun was high in the sky. It made the red sand on the ground feel like fire. The wind was dry. There was no rain for days. David sat under a mango tree behind a small shop. He sat on a broken wooden bench. His shirt was old. His jeans had a small tear near the knee. His sandals were dusty. His face looked tired. His lips were dry. He had not eaten since morning. A little girl passed by with a cooler on her head. "Buy rice?" she asked with a smile. David looked up. He smiled weakly. "No money," he said softly. She nodded and walked away. David looked down at his hands. They were rough from walking around the village looking for work. No one wanted to help him. Some people even crossed the road when they saw him coming. This was David's new life. Before, he had a plan. He sold his parents' house in Jos. He gave his cousin, Mr. Obi, the money. It was 10 million naira. Obi said they would buy land together. Obi said they would build and make more money. But it was a lie. Obi took the money and bought the land alone. Now he was building a big shopping plaza. Obi Plaza, the sign said in bold letters. David had nothing. No job. No house. No hope. He lived with a friend named James. James had a small room in the back of his uncle's compound. David slept on a mat on the floor. Sometimes they ate together. Sometimes there was no food. At night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking, why? Why did Obi do this to me? The village people started talking. One day at the market, 2 women were buying tomatoes. "Isn't that Obi's cousin?" one woman said. "Yes," the other said. "The one he used to buy land. Now he just walks around like a beggar," the first woman whispered. David heard them. He didn't say anything. He just walked past. Some of his old friends avoided him now. Some even laughed behind his back. "Not so live be," one of them said. But David didn't fight anyone. He stayed calm. One evening, as the sun began to set, David walked to see an old man in the village. His name was Baba Onom. People said he was wise. He was not rich, but everyone respected him. Even Obi used to greet him with 2 hands. David walked slowly to Baba's compound. There were chickens scratching the ground. A little boy sat on a mat playing with stones. Baba was peeling yams under a tree. He wore a faded white singlet and a wrapper. His beard was white and full. His eyes were calm. "Good evening, Baba," David greeted. "Oh, David," Baba said. "Come and sit, my son." David sat on a small wooden stool beside him. He kept his head low. "I need help, Baba," he said. Baba dropped the knife and looked at him. "Speak." David told him everything. From the beginning. How his parents died. How he sold their house. How he trusted Obi. How Obi lied. How he lost everything. Baba listened. He did not say anything. He kept nodding slowly. When David finished, he was breathing hard. "I want to do something, Baba. But I don't know what to do," David said. Baba looked at him for a long time. "My son," Baba said slowly, "what you feel now is not just hunger. You feel betrayed. And betrayal, it is bitter like bitter leaf. You swallow it, and your chest burns." David nodded. "But why me? Why would my own blood do this?" Baba picked up a piece of yam. "Because greed is like a sickness. When a man wants more than he needs, he forgets who helped him." David looked up. "So what should I do?" Baba took a deep breath. "Do you believe in justice?" he asked. David frowned. "I don't know anymore. The police won't help. Nobody listens. Justice is slow, Baba said. Like rain that starts with small drops. But it will fall. And when it falls, it washes everything. David looked away. But I'm tired, Baba. I am suffering. Baba stood and walked to his small table. He brought out a small leaf and gave it to David. Put this in your pocket, Baba said. David looked at it. What is it? Not juju, Baba said with a smile. It is just to remind you, life starts small. The leaf is small. But when it grows, it becomes a tree. David smiled a little. Tell your story, Baba said. Write it down. Speak it out. Let people know what happened. One day, someone will listen. And when the time is right, truth will fight for you. David stood up and bowed. Thank you, Baba. He walked home slowly. That night, he took out an old notebook from his bag. He wrote everything. The date he gave Obi the money. The things Obi said. The promises. The lie. Everything. Then he wrote at the bottom. Truth never dies. He closed the book and placed it under his mat. He knew he was poor now. He had nothing. But he also knew one thing. He had the truth. Obi sat in his living room, legs crossed, chewing gum slowly. His phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. It was a number he didn't know. He didn't pick. He was tired of strange calls. Ever since his building, Obi Plaza, started going up, many people had started watching him. Some said he was smart. Others said he was dangerous. He didn't care. He picked up his drink and sipped slowly. A worker came in. Sir, the new contractor is outside, the man said. Send him in. A tall man wearing a black shirt and jeans walked in. He had a scar on his face. His name was Blade. Obi leaned back and said, You handle problems, right? Blade smiled. Yes, sir. Quietly. Obi nodded. There's one boy in this village. His name is David. Blade nodded slowly. I've heard of him. He's going around talking rubbish. Saying I took his money. Saying I lied. Blade raised his brow. Did you? Obi's face changed. That is not your concern. I want him to be quiet. Blade nodded. Scare him. Yes. Make him stop. I don't want to hear his name again. Blade smiled. Say less. Obi gave him a brown envelope. Go tonight. Blade stood up and walked out. Obi poured himself another drink. He stood near the window and looked out. He could see the top of his building site. Obi Plaza was painted in red on a whiteboard. He smiled. But it was a small smile. He was no longer sleeping well. Too many thoughts. Too many eyes were watching him. He used to enjoy the attention. Now, it made him nervous. He picked up his phone and called Chief Agoda. Chief Agoda was a local chief. He was not a king, but he had power. He controlled land in the area. Chief. Obi said, pretending to laugh. Obi, my boy. Chief Agoda answered. How is life? I just did, Obi said. I want to see you. They met later that evening in Chief Agoda's compound. They sat under a tree with 2 bottles of beer on the table. I hear some noises coming from David, the chief said. Obi smiled tightly. He's a small boy. Talking rubbish. The chief nodded. But villagers are beginning to ask questions. Obi leaned in. That's why I came. I want you to speak well about me. In public. If people say anything, shut it down. Chief raised his brow. People don't just listen. Unless there is encouragement. Obi opened his bag. He brought out a bundle of cash. This is the first encouragement. The chief smiled and collected it. You are doing well, Obi. You are helping this community. David is just jealous. Obi laughed loudly. Exactly. As Obi stood to leave, the chief said, but remember, secrets don't sleep forever. Obi paused. What do you mean? Chief shook his head. Just saying. Be careful. Obi walked out quickly. Later that night, Blade and 2 other men found David walking home. Hey! Blade shouted. David turned. Who are you people? David asked. One man pulled him aside roughly. Blade came close. You they talk too much, he said. You want to become a village radio. David looked afraid, but he stood straight. I only said the truth. Blade slapped him hard. David fell. We don't want to hear your voice again, Blade growled. They left him on the ground. The next morning, David had a swollen face. He could not open his left eye. His friend James was angry. This is too much. You must report. David shook his head. Who will believe me? Obi has paid the chief. Even the police will laugh. He sat quietly. But inside, something changed. He was not afraid anymore. He was angry. Meanwhile, Obi kept spending. He bought a new car. He threw another party. People came and danced. He smiled for photos. He paid a photographer to take pictures of him with local leaders. He paid the radio station to call him Obi the Builder. He made sure his name stayed clean. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. Every time someone said David, his hands would sweat. He started checking his gates more often. He told his guards to watch the street. He changed his phone number. He blocked David's number. He even told his driver, if you hear anyone mention David near this house, come and tell me first. One of his workers said, Oga, relax. That boy is not fit to do anything. Obi snapped. Shut up. Just do your job. Even his wife, Adebi, began to worry. You know they rest again, she said. You don't sleep. You don't laugh. What is going on? Obi shouted, leave me alone. She walked away without saying a word. At the office, Obi shouted at 2 workers and sacked them without warning. You're slow, he yelled. You want to spoil my business. No, well, one man said outside. Oga don dey mad small. That evening, Obi drove past the village market. He saw 2 women whispering. They pointed at him and looked away quickly. He stopped his car and watched them. They looked scared. He rolled up his window fast. They are talking again, he thought. He drove off quickly, eyes wide, heart beating fast. His power was growing. But his peace was dying. Near the pepper sellers, 2 old women sat with bowls of okra and onions. You hear say David talk true? One asked. I've been hearing, the other said. They beat him for rodo. Big scar near his eye. Know who beat him? They say Obi sent boys. The second woman shook her head. Obi, get mind oh. Not far from them, a group of bikers gathered under a small tree. They were not walking. They were talking. That boy David was walking gently, one of them said. He hasn't fought anybody. Why did they go beat him? Because he tells the truth, another answered. Obi don't change, a third one said. Before, he used to greet everybody. Now he just dey form big man. No money they talk, someone said. They all nodded. At the other end of the market, some young girls were at the clothes store. I hear say Obi did juju to get that land, one whispered. And from whom? My cousin's friend works at his site. She says the land is not pure. Even the man who sells it has died. They all looked around before laughing nervously. But the building is fine, sure, one said. Fine, but cursed, another replied. All around the market, people talked. But they made sure to talk in low voices. Obi still had money. Obi still had power. No one wanted to say too much. Still, the fear was growing. Some traders now avoided him. When Obi passed with his car, some people waved slowly. Some didn't wave at all. Even the town crier noticed. I see things, he said to a friend. People know they fear Obi. They fear his ways. On Sunday, in church, the pastor spoke. We must not worship wealth, he said. Money that comes with lies brings trouble. Betrayal is a sin. People looked at each other. They knew who he meant. Obi's wife, Adeabi, sat in front. She looked down the whole time. Outside the church, two men talked near the well. I know, David. His parents were good people, one said. He is quiet, the other replied. If he talks, he gets reason. Obi just they throw party, but something they smell. No, the smell of fear, the man said. Even children began to sing new songs. Big man with big car. But a small truth catches him. Plaza goes to 4. If he lies, no small. Teachers told them to stop. But the song spread. Meanwhile, David sat on a bench near a small kiosk. His eye was still swollen, but he didn't hide it. Two small boys came to him. Uncle David, one said, is it true that Obi stole your money? David looked at them. Where did you hear that? From Mama Aker's daughter, they said. David smiled sadly. Go and do your homework, he told them. They ran off laughing. Inside her shop, Mama Ike washed. David, come inside, she called. He entered. I believe you, she said. Obi gets power now. But truth, no, they die. David said nothing. She gave him a cup of cold water. Outside, the sun was hot. But inside the people's hearts, something was boiling. Later that day, Obi came to the market in his new car. He wore sunglasses and white senator's wear. He stepped out to buy fruit. At first, people smiled. But it wasn't real. He greeted a man. The man nodded and looked away. He waved at a group of women. They smiled but didn't respond. Obi felt it. The space around him was wide. People were giving him room. But not because they respected him. Because they didn't trust him. He turned to leave. Behind him, someone whispered, God go judge him. Obi turned fast. Who said that? But no one answered. He entered his car and drove off quickly. A young girl near the yam seller said quietly, before, he used to laugh loudly. Now he always looks back like a thief. People laughed. But it was a soft, careful laugh. The village had started to change. Before, everyone wanted to be like Obi. Now, they were not so sure. The truth had not come out fully. But it had started to move. Like smoke under a closed door. Obi sat in his home office, staring at a sheet of paper. His face was tight. He held the paper with both hands, shaking slightly. It was a letter from a real estate company. They had pulled out of the deal. The letter said, due to internal changes, we are no longer interested in renting spaces at Obi Plaza. Obi dropped the paper on the table. This is the third one, he said to himself. What is going on? He stood up and paced around the room. His hands were on his waist. His phone rang. It was his lawyer, Mr. Okafor. He picked it up fast. Yes. Sir, the lawyer said slowly, there is a problem. Obi's heart jumped. What again? The land paper. Someone has filed a complaint. They say it was not sold legally. What nonsense are you talking about? They said the man who sold it to you was not the only owner. There's a brother who claims part of the land is his. Obi rubbed his forehead. What kind of brother is that? He didn't show up before. Well, sir. He has documents. Obi slammed the table. I gave you money to make everything clean. Fix it. I'll try, sir, Okafor replied. But this may go to court. Obi ended the call and threw the phone on the chair. He sat down, breathing hard. Things were not going well. That week, the workers on his site went on strike. They said he owed them 2 weeks' pay. But I paid your supervisor. Obi shouted. We never see the money, the head mason said. Obi tried to call the supervisor. The number didn't go. Later, someone told him the man had traveled to Cotonou. Obi sat on a block near the site. Sweat rolled down his face. This is rubbish, he said. To make matters worse, a police van came to the site. They said they were checking construction licenses. Who called you people? Obi asked. Just routine checks, one officer said. Obi gave them money to leave, but they told him, next time, bring your documents. That night, he sat with his wife, Adeabi. I don't understand what is happening, he said. Adeabi looked at him. Maybe it's time you tell the truth. Obi frowned. Truth? Yes, she said. About what you did to David. Obi stood up. You don't know what you're talking about? I know enough, Adeabi replied. I saw the way you treated him. That boy gave you his all. Obi walked out of the room. The next morning, he opened his WhatsApp. Someone had sent a voice note. He pressed play. It was a woman's voice. They said Obi took his cousin's money. The boy has nothing now. But God sees all. Obi deleted it quickly. But more messages started coming. Strangers saying, God is watching you. He changed his number again. But the bad news didn't stop. One of his old suppliers refused to send more building materials. He said, we heard something. We don't want to put our money in Wala. Even the bank delayed one of his transfers. Obi shouted at the manager. This is my money. System upgrade, sir, they said. Obi left the bank, breathing hard. That evening, rain fell heavily. Water entered one part of the plaza roof in progress. Some bags of cement got wet and spoiled. The site manager called him. Obi didn't say a word. He just dropped the call and sat in the dark. He poured a drink. Then another. In the dream that night, he was running in a bush. Something chased him. A voice called his name, Obi. Obi, return what you stole. He woke up shouting. Adeabi rushed in. What is it? Nothing, he said. Just leave me. She stood quietly. Then she said, your eyes are red. You need help. I need peace, he said. But peace does not come when you cheat people, she said. Obi didn't answer. The next day, a youth group in the village invited him to speak at their event. He agreed. He wore his best white agbada and red cap. He brought envelopes to share money after his speech. He walked in proudly. People clapped, but not as loudly as before. He gave his speech. I believe in this community, he said. I want to help more. He handed out the envelopes. Some youths collected it. Some refused. One boy even said, we know they chop lie money. Obi heard it. He looked at the boy. The boy looked back, strong and bold. Obi smiled weakly and left. On his way out, he asked his driver, did you see the way they looked at me? Yes, sir, the driver said. They used to love me. Yes, sir. Obi looked out the window. He saw children playing near the gutter. One of them shouted, "Plaza, we go for." The other kids laughed. Obi closed the window. He didn't say anything for the rest of the drive. The cracks had started. Not just in his project, but in his name. And in his heart. David sat alone in James's room. A small lantern burned beside him. The room was quiet. James had gone to church. David opened his small bag. Inside, it was an old exercise book. The pages were bent. The cover was torn. But the book was clean. No dirt. No food stain. It was the only thing David still protected. He flipped through the pages. Page 1, January 4th, Obi told me about the land deal. Page 2, January 10th, I gave Obi 10 million Nigerian nairas in cash. We shook hands. He said, I swear on my life. Page 5, January 13th, Obi said the land was sold to someone else. But I saw the signboard go up, Obi Plaza. David stared at the words. I'm not mad, he whispered to himself. This really happened. He turned to the back of the book. He had drawn the layout of the land. The same one Obi showed him. The same land that Obi said they would buy together. David held the book to his chest. Truth is in here, he said. Just then, James walked in. Are you still looking at that book? James asked. David nodded. It's the only proof I have. James sat beside him. I believe you. But do you think this is enough? David didn't answer. The next day, David took the book to Baba Onong. The old man sat on his wooden chair, peeling oranges. Good morning, Baba, David greeted. Oh, my son, Baba said. You look stronger today. David showed him the book. I wrote everything. Dates. Names. Amounts. Even witnesses. Baba wiped his hands and took the book. He read slowly. After a few minutes, he looked up. This is good. This is your truth. But truth needs a voice. You must find someone who can speak it loudly. David nodded. But who? Baba smiled. Sometimes, help comes from where you don't expect. That afternoon, David walked to a shop that printed documents. It was owned by a woman named Clara. She used to type documents for Obi before he got rich. David explained everything and showed her the book. Clara looked shocked. You mean? Obi used your money and lied? Yes. Are you sure you want to print this? David nodded. I must. She opened her laptop. Okay. Sit down. They typed and typed. Dates. Events. Names. Locations. Clara formatted it like a report. She added a cover page, sworn testimony by David Chibis. David signed the last page. Clara printed 5 clean copies. Take them, she said. Keep them safe. David thanked her. Later that night, Clara sat in her room thinking. She called someone on her phone. Hello, she said. You work in community radio, right? Yes, the person replied. I have something you need to hear. The next morning, David was still in bed when James rushed in. David. Wake up. What is it? David asked. Turn on the radio. David turned it on. The announcer was talking. A new report has come out against Mr. Obi, the popular land developer in our town. The report shows evidence of a secret deal involving stolen money from a relative. The report is written by Mr. David Chibis and includes names, dates, and bank details. We will read some parts now. David sat up straight. His hands began to shake. They are reading it, he whispered. James smiled. Yes. The whole town is listening. People in the market stood still. Bikemen parked their bikes. Traders turned up their radios. On January 10th, Obi received 10 million Nigerian nairas from David. He told him they would buy land together. But Obi later claimed the land was sold. Meanwhile, he built Obi Plaza alone and used David's money. At Obi's mansion, the radio was on too. Obi was drinking tea when he heard his name. Signed by David Chibiz, written by hand, now confirmed and printed. 5 copies exist. Obi stood up so fast his chair fell back. "Who did this?" he shouted. Adeobi walked in. "It has started." Obi grabbed his phone. He called Mr. Okafor. "Did you hear the radio?" "I'm listening," the lawyer said. "This is serious." "Shut it down." Obi screamed. "It's too late. The people know." Obi threw the phone across the room. Back at the printing shop, Clara looked out the window. A group of youths had gathered, talking loudly. "This thing doesn't scatter," one said. "Obi must talk." "That boy David is a lion," another said. That evening, a group of elders gathered under a tree near the village square. They had all listened. One elder said, "Let us call Obi. And let us call the boy. The truth must face the light." News spread fast. Even before sunset, 3 copies of the report had been shared by hand. One reached the church. Another went to the village head. The third, to a lawyer in town. Obi sat alone in his room. The sky outside turned dark. He looked at the paper in his hand. It was a copy of the report. He saw his name. He saw the amount. He saw the lie. The truth had left David's notebook. And it was walking through the streets. Step by step. Door to door. Voice to voice. The house of lies had cracked. And it would soon fall. Comments below the type continue if you want to see episode 3. Your feedback will help shape future videos on this channel.